It's the holiday season. Thanksgiving is tomorrow. And so we're going to make some fresh ground breakfast sausage. This is our maple spice breakfast sausage. We do this at Thanksgiving time. Makes a great sausage and gravy, a few sausage patties. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. So for starters, it's nice and cold out in the cook shack. The smokers aren't running yet. The turkeys will go on tonight and it'll warm up in here, but we want it nice and chilly when we're grinding sausage and prepping sausage. So let's start with our spice seasoning. We're going to begin with, and this is per pound. So depending on how much pork you're grinding, we're going to start with some coarse salt, and we're going to go with about a tablespoon of each of the following. So we've got a tablespoon of garlic and a tablespoon of onion powder. We've also got a tablespoon of fennel in there. And then we're going to go with about a teaspoon of thyme, paprika, and sage. And we're going to add that in with the salt. And we're actually going to bring this together. We want a fine spice. And that's why we're putting this in the mortar and pestle. We want to bring this together and we want to make it nice and fine. So I want to get in here, let you just kind of give an idea for just how fine that really is. And you can see we've incorporated those spices, we've broken them down, they're going to be very fine. And then when we add our liquids, this is going to blend very well with all of our meats and it's going to permeate the meat very thoroughly. Now, the last of our dry ingredients are, and this is to taste, I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon instead of a full teaspoon of red pepper flakes and another half a teaspoon of black pepper. And the reason I'm doing this at the last is I want that to remain coarse in the mix. We'll give that a little bit of a mix, but the rest of this now is going to be combined with our wet ingredients, with the exception of your maple. We make our own maple sugar. So we boil our maple sap down until it becomes candy. We take that tack and we grind that into a sugar. And so we'll go ahead and add that to our dry seasoning. And otherwise, we would just use about a third of a cup. And so it's a little less than a third of a cup if you're using the very concentrated powder. If you're using the wet maple syrup, about a third of a cup of maple syrup is going to go in with your wet ingredients. So keep in mind, I'm trying to demonstrate a per pound recipe of ingredients. So I have my dry ingredients. I'm going to add about an ounce of water per pound of spice mix. So about an ounce per pound. I'm going to whisk that up. What you should end up with is a somewhat pasty spice mix. So you'll repeat this recipe for each pound. And we'll show you exactly. Now, keep in mind, if you're using the wet maple syrup, that you want to calculate the variation between that and water if you're doing that as a liquid. We have dry maple in here. So while those spices are all coming together with the wet ingredients, we're going to cut up some pork. And in this case, I'm just using some leftover pork butt. This is a deboned pork butt. You can see here in just a moment. We've trimmed a lot of the fat from this, preparing it for commercial use, but there's still quite a good deal of fat here. And the fat marbling and the amount of fat you add to your sausage is really about preference. I do like a lean cut. So we're going to cut these at about, I don't know, 1-inch size chunks to go into the grinder. Pork butt gives us that 20 to 30% fat ratio that gives us an easy to cook and tasteful sausage. So we're going for about 4 pounds of meat, and we're going to get that into our seasoning mix. And we want to just toss that. We want all of those spices covering as much of the meat as possible. And you can do this after the grind or just before the grind. I feel that it's best to kind of marinate the meat in this before you put it in the grinder. So we've oiled our blade and our grinding plate, and we've begun pressing the meat through the grinder. And it's already seasoned. And this is just going to allow that seasoning to permeate the meat and give us a fantastic flavor. We are going for a fine grind here, and I get in here close, you can kind of see the seasoning in that meat, and so it's just going to be very flavorful, and it's just going to be a very well seasoned sausage. This fresh grind can be stored in the refrigerator if covered well for 4 to 5 days, and then it should be frozen, but it makes a fantastic breakfast sausage.